Shut up and sit down.
By all means, go for it. Have fun. Just leave me alone.
People are coming together more and more and more and more as the government has been failing us more and more.
I'm against being shitty to people.
You can't research your way into understanding somebody.
One way or another, I'd rather have the fight now.
I'm muted. That's a great way to start out. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fight for Liberty Live. I am joined here by wonderful master videographer and host of The System Is Down podcast, Mr. Dan Smotz. Thanks for joining us.
David Fite, the one and only. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I feel bad. I'm going to leave some gap between showing that thing that I just played and that I made and playing your ad. So let's talk about some stuff between there. I don't want people to compare too hard.
Make people forget about it. Men in Black memory wipe, and then we can watch it.
Yeah. But so let's start off with how did you get into video editing and doing all the stuff that you do now?
I've been doing video editing since high school. I taught myself. Didn't do any extended education or anything like that. It was really out of necessity. I was in some bands and stuff, and I had a lot of friends in bands. I rolled in that scene for a long time doing rock and metal type music stuff, and I had a need for music videos, so I picked up a crappy old I don't know, camcorder or something, like the DVR shit. I was recording to tape. That's how old I am. I was recording to the mini DV tapes and then transmitting that through Firewire, which was a thing at once, kids. And transmitting that to a crappy old laptop and just doing whatever I could with Windows Movie Maker and stuff, and just to be able to, because I loved music. I loved music videos and stuff, and I still love music videos. But that transitioned into I did several different jobs, and then ended up making a career and a living out of doing wedding video eventually. Skipping about 10 years in there somewhere, but started doing wedding videos because I realized, it's not my first choice, but it's good.
It's a market that's always there.
It's always there, and it's quite lucrative, I must say, especially since there's almost zero competition as far as wedding video goes. And once I realized, because like my wife and I have been married 14 years, we were young and couldn't afford video, didn't know anything about it. And if you don't do it, or if you haven't gotten it, you don't really know what wedding video is because you have no reason to look into it. But so I assumed it was like old camcorder in the back of the room type shit that you saw back in the day. But after digging into it, realizing that they're basically like little, 10-minute music videos, started enjoying it, made some good money there, still do that. And got into working with Vermin Supreme on his campaign, did those videos, the You Are the Power stuff, and then Spike Cohen and Joe Jorgensen, and now doing some Mises Caucus stuff and whatever comes up.
Yeah, I think this will be the third time that I've played one of your videos on my live show, because I played the Spike Cohen one, the 1 year anniversary video, the day that came out. And then I had Todd Hagopian on a little while ago and played the Mises Caucus ad in that episode. Honestly, I think that there's, we talked about this a little bit on last night's show as well. I had Jacob Winograd, who's a member of the Pennsylvania Mises Caucus. And we were just talking about the ad that the LP National put out yesterday compared to the one that you made. And
going right into it, huh? Going right into it. Hey, how are you? Tell me a little bit. Now let's bash on your competition a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Well, so we were talking, and both of us were like, if your ad didn't exist, and the situation behind theirs was didn't exist, basically, it's an objectively all right ad. It's a pretty decent ad. It hits all the talking points. It talks about this being a war on our liberties. It has a little bit of that proper, or that fired up language that I was looking for. Not as much, but a little bit.
More than you expected, though.
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised. Honestly, just with its sheer existence, I thought that it just wasn't going to be a thing, period. But yeah, I think your videos have a specific like almost like church like worship team vibe of like just fired up, like, yeah, I want to go do a thing now. Like,
I have never heard the worship team vibe attributed to my videos, but hey, whatever gets you fired up. If you get fired up by gospel music and this is your gospel music, then so be it. But yeah, man, like that their video, I'm not gonna like bash on it or anything. It was good. I know the guy who did it. I have no problems with him or anything. I have no problems with anybody in particular. I'm not a huge, like, we can get into why they did or didn't go with me and some history behind that. But as far as this video in particular, if I set my, like, of course, I'm a little bit like, hey, come on, guys. Everybody was telling you to use me and you didn't use me. So I'm a little bit butthurt about that. But all in all, like, yeah, it's a solid video as far as like corporate, running on, I don't know, whatever they're going to put it on. They better put it on something if that's what they got out of $50,000. But whatever they're running it on, it's good enough for that. And
it's the best bureaucracy could do.
Right. And they didn't like water down the message. At least that's really all I care about. Like my main point, and I talked about this on my show, I think yesterday. I don't know. I've done way too many this week, but yesterday I talked about it, and like, I see a bunch of people fighting in the Twitter comments and railing on them for, oh, this isn't good enough and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, I understand that you're annoyed because of some of the circumstances with lack of transparency or not using people that you wanted or this or that. But this is not the fight. Like, this is not the important thing. The important thing is they did something. And most of us thought that they weren't going to do anything, and they proved us wrong. So we should applaud them. And they didn't water down the messaging to be like some, oh, I don't care for vaccine mandates very much and government's too big and too bossy type things. They stuck to it and gave good messaging. So I applaud them on that, and I have no issues with the video. So
yeah, and I specifically to the people that are in the replies of their Twitter post shitting on it, it's like you wanted them to put out something so that people could see it and then maybe like want to join the party. Right. If what they see is that, and then a bunch of people talking shit in the comments,
right,
you're not accomplishing that goal, not even a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't help but feel a little bit responsible for I don't know. It's a weird scenario where I just did it better, and now everybody's mad that they didn't do it better, and now it's kind of shining a negative light on something that should be a positive. But hey, if you guys wanted to do it better, you could have hired me. You had my number, you were given it, and I've been here the whole time. Still, like, on multiple occasions, many people have said hire Dan, and people have reached out to me saying, can I give them your number? I've said yes, and still to this day I have not received a phone call. So that's on you. If you want to do better, do better. That's all I ask.
Right. The other thing that I will say though, is that, there was obviously a lot of shitty comments from just like fully retarded, like duopoly stooges that are like, you guys are evil. Sure. But there was a noticeable amount of people who look like they were friendly to the LP and to the Liberty Movement, or at least some of our key players, that were turned off by how hard of a stance they took on that. And like, there was like
how hard the LP's video took a stance.
Yes.
Now, I didn't spend much time in the comments. I mostly only saw what I was tagged in because I didn't really care. I shared their video. I retweeted it, which they, to my knowledge, still haven't done to mine, but whatever. But yeah, I didn't dig too much into the comments, but I heard that there were some pro-vax libertarians that were getting a little upset about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just, I was musing last night, especially we were in a clubhouse room after the show, talking a little bit more, and I can't help but feel like there are probably people that were kind of in that lukewarm zone, that the video didn't go far enough as to turn them off, where yours might have been like a little bit too strong and like,
I would rather err on the side of too strong and have people get turned off by us giving really bold messaging than them get turned off by what exactly do you guys? Not that their video like left any like doubt as to what their stance was, but I feel like even that the constituents in the Libertarian Party shouldn't have had to push and claw and fight and scream on Twitter so much to get this out of them. Like it should have been their idea from the get-go, and it doesn't seem like it was that.
Yeah. And the other thing that we were talking about last night, like if you wanted to do the pragmatist approach of like trying to create a system that helps candidates and helps people actually win elections, like that ad could have had some candidates in it.
Right.
Like if that ad was Dan Berman, Nick, well, I know Wildstar isn't running as in the LP, but if it was like Dan Berman, Nick Wildstar, Larry Sharp, Natalie Bruno, like a bunch of our gubernatorial candidates from next year, all like, and then we spend $30,000 blasting it all over the place. Like that's national name recognition for these candidates now. Like there's ways to have done it like good on the safe side, like towards that more like praggy, lukewarm kind of stuff. But I feel like it was kind of like the worst of both worlds. It's what we kind of
yeah, and I think I know why. I don't have like really any insider information or anything on it, so this is just my best guess. But my guess would be the reason why there's nobody in it that you recognize is because if they put somebody in it that you recognize, they would have been very obligated and very pressured to put in people that you would definitely recognize that they definitely didn't want to put in it, like Tom Woods and Dave Smith and stuff like that. Because that's what people were yelling about. They were like, I will only donate if Dave Smith's in it, Spike Cohen's in it, Justin Amash is in it. And that was my goal. Like if I had done it, I would have said, hey, I will happily work with all three of these guys and anybody else. Like, let's get this out there. Like that would have been the best unity move. And I feel like because they didn't, again, these are just my words, not theirs, because they didn't want people like Dave Smith and possibly even Spike Cohen. I can't say for sure, but people that they can't control quite as much, because they didn't want them in it. They're like, well, we can't use anybody now. Otherwise people will be pissed off. We have to spin it in this artistic direction, a different way, so that they still get the thing that they paid for, but it's not exactly what they were asking for.
Right. Well, so let's show everybody your video so you can stop shitting on theirs and start talking about how awesome yours was.
Deal.
Here we go.
This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. We must increase vaccinations among the unvaccinated with new vaccination requirements.
It's not going to work. We have other countries with much higher rates of vaccination, and they're seeing record surges of COVID because that's what viruses do.
Many of us are frustrated with the nearly 80 million Americans who are still not vaccinated.
Their freedom. I want my freedom to live.
Rest in peace, Wheezy.
We are going to need the people to engage in age-old American tradition of simply saying, no, I'm not going to comply. Now, what are you going to do about it?
It never stops. They want things to get worse because they want you to suffer so that they can grandstand on your suffering and push for even more control.
They have criminalized freedom. They've made getting sick illegal.
This isn't about COVID any more than the Patriot Act was about Al-Qaeda. It's about government asserting more control over your lives, your rights, your properties, and in this case, your bodily autonomy.
It has a lot of vaccinated people alarmed because of the power grab that's involved.
Enough is enough. We better change our tune and start resisting.
Government makes up less than 1% of the population. If even 5 or 10% of Americans simply refuse to comply, all of this goes away.
Absolutely, this is the hill worth dying on.
We haven't given the statutory authority to any agency to do this kind of thing.
There is no such thing as government power. There's only what we are willing to comply to.
We're in the tough stretch, and it could last for a while.
That's what this has always been about. It's never about what they say it is. It's about controlling you. And it ends when we decide to end it.
This BS is going to stop.
It's time for us to wake up.
There's only one way to fight back against this, and it's mass non-compliance.
This is the most important thing to fight against.
You can help stop this. You are the power.
There's nothing, not a single thing we're unable to do if we do it together.
Fucking great. Chills.
I'm not gonna lie, it does give me chills. I make things that's how I know I'm doing it right. When I play it back, I'm like, ooh, Yeah, there we go. Okay.
I love how you always add like a very comical line at the end. Like whenever it's showing like your website, that like last line is always fucking hilarious. I think the Ron Paul quote in the Mises Caucus ad, like I was at the Mecock Bash in PA when they played it for the first time, and the entire fucking room was dying. It's like,
That's awesome. That's great to hear, because I've never been at well, I guess I have been at one like premiere of one of my videos. I was at the convention when they played the Joe Jorgensen's first one that I did for them. But yeah, I like to I basically, you know, I want to put stuff in there that would get my attention, stuff that I want to see. And I want to see like this bomb ass movie trailer that has the strongest words from the coolest, smartest people in the movement, and you know, maybe even a little bit of humor to make it memorable. And like that mix of emotion, like I use that in everything, like my wedding videos and stuff like that too. I'll get you on the verge of tears, and I'll drop in something funny, and then, you know, just keeps you guessing. And I think that's emotion is something that's extremely lacking from the Libertarian Party and the Liberty Movement in general, like speaking to people in a way that moves them. And I don't bat around this at all. Like, I call myself a disgruntled freedom propagandist. Like, I know what I'm doing. I know that I am there to make people feel certain ways for good causes. And hopefully I only ever do it for good. But if the Libertarian Party never hires me, maybe somebody else will, guys.
Yeah, it's funny. I when the video first came out, I sent it to one of my friends, and while she was watching it, one of our other friends walked into the room, and I'm not sure where in the video she was when this happened, because I was in the other room, but he walked in, and apparently the first thing he said was, "What is that propaganda you're listening to?" Like, I'm not sure if he was listening to the Biden part or the Spike part, but either way, I mean, it sounds like propaganda.
I mean, they both are. Just one of them's honest and the other one isn't. That's all.
Right. And I think you're 100% right. It's something that's missing from the movement, and especially the party. We've become this like logical, idealistic, like debate club. And that's not how most people are. Like, we're really good at reaching that 10% of America that is logical and thinks like that, and will only change their opinions when they've been corrected through healthy debate. Most people just need to feel something, and then they go show up at a building, check a box with the person's name that made them feel the most somethings over the last 6 months, and then they go home.
Right. Feel something and see something exciting. We can't sell these people on, hey, we're going to win the presidency. Not that we should necessarily stop trying to convince them of that obvious lie, but we can't really convince most of them to do that. So the least we can do is say, hey, something exciting is going on over here. Instead of holding your nose to vote for this person or that person, what if you came over to see what's exciting? And then once we get you in, we can convince you that, hey, you don't necessarily need to vote for us. Just stop voting for people that are blowing up people overseas and stuff like that. Like, we need to reel people in with something. And granted, when they get into the Liberty Movement, they might not find that it's the flowery or the movie that the trailer laid it out as. They might be disappointed, like M. Night Shyamalan's The Village or something. But they just getting them in. If they're going to, if they're going to fall for it, then we got to get them somehow. And I don't think that another podcast, as we are both podcasters, but I don't think another, like, as important as I think it is, like, I just had Will McVeigh on, the guy who just stole the Libertarian Party of Delaware. As important as I think it is to talk about those things, that's not going to get people into the door to liberty. What's going to get them in there is, stuff like this, I think. And all I can do is, my part. And I don't see this as like, I'm changing the Liberty Movement or anything. I know some people think that it will magic, like you even said, if we had more of these, we would win. I don't even know that that's true, but at least we would be putting our best foot forward and making it an exciting movement rather than, arguing about the nap and calling people Nazis all day.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at least we could be promoting something. But like, especially when you look at like the congressional ads from the two major parties right now, like, I could make better videos than what most of these candidates are putting out and putting on TV. And I know the bigger hurdle is actually just the airtime and the ad spots and raising that money. But still,
that's another reason why people need to ease up a little bit. Like with the LP thing, they were going for $100,000. Yes, I would have charged them about 1/100th of that, but it is very expensive to put stuff on TV. There is an argument to be had as to whether or not it should be put on TV or whether or not there's value in that. But to run it on like national TV, it's like more than $100,000 just to run it. So there is an argument there. I think the main thing that they needed in that situation was more transparency, letting people know like what the plan was, what the message was, and where they're going to, put it, what they're going to do with people's money. And there wasn't any of that, which I think is why people are so upset right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And just the time, like I know that also there's probably a decent reason for how long it took. I'm sure they have a very logical excuse for all of it's probably 7 or 8 combined, but between the bureaucusy and the
bureaucracy is the reason why it took so long.
Right. But I mean, they had to all agree on something and vote on it as like if it wasn't the whole LNC, it was at least a communications committee, and that's still a couple people that have to agree on a thing. It's guaranteed to take longer than you by yourself being able to just be like, all right, this is what I think is cool. But yeah, the amount of time that it took and the lack of transparency and everybody just kind of sitting around wondering whether or not anything was actually going to happen.
Right.
I don't think that they could have made a video good enough to actually make people happy after the situation that they created. It could have been the best ad that LP's ever seen, and it still would have been like, well, it took you a month.
Right.
Still too little, too late.
Yeah, if they did what I would have done, it might have taken the same amount of time as that, but it would have been like I would have. And I'm sure this is why they didn't end up contacting me, because they know that I would have pushed for the strong messaging, and I would have pushed for getting all those people that I intentionally put into that video. Like all the people I put into my video, it was everyone that I saw. Like whenever I saw a comment that was like, I will only contribute if Josh Smith isn't in it. I'm like, put him on the list. I'll only contribute if Tom Woods isn't in it. All right, where he's going in my video too. Like I'm gonna do this unauthorized, and I'm gonna put out the video. Like these people are the leaders, whether you like it or not. Do better, be a better leader, and you'll be in the video. I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, I don't know. Like, what were we talking about? I don't know. Whatever. I don't remember where this started.
So I find it kind of interesting because like you came in. Like you mentioned, your first video for the movement was for Vermin Supreme,
right?
And now you're more in the Mises circles. So you're I find it kind of funny because like a lot of people that I've talked to about like, oh, they didn't want the Mises guy Dan Smotz to make the video, but you've been having issues for a lot longer than you've been making stuff for the Mises caucus.
Yes, I had issues with some people on the Vermin team, one might say. I also had issues with the Jorgensen team firing me and then obligatorily rehiring me and so on and so forth. The Mises people are the only people who haven't given me a hard time so far, so that's why I'm still around. But yeah, I'm not even a member of the Mises caucus. I do support what they're doing, and I try to, like, I'm open. If like Dave Smith ran and against Spike Cohen, I would probably go to them both and be like, now, which one of you is okay with me also working with the other one? Because I'm here for liberty. I'm not here for you to win a campaign. I'm here for whoever can get enough nominations to get the most noise out there. And as long as you're, speaking my language to some extent, I'm down. Like, I didn't agree with Joe. I guess I agree. I probably agreed with Jo Jorgensen on all of her points, but she wasn't my first, second, third, or 10th pick for the nomination. But I will happily work with her. If she's the candidate, I'll make her look as good as I possibly can, because she is preaching the message, and she that's what matters at the end of the day.
She's still the most principled candidate we've seen since Harry Brown.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
a very low bar, but yes.
Yeah, right. It's kind of sad. Yeah, the Dave versus Justin versus Spike 24, that's almost guaranteed to happen.
Except for Justin Amash just changed his Twitter bio to say liberal. I'm not saying there's anything to that, but it seems weird, and I don't understand why he would do it. He took libertarian out of it and just put liberal. I'm sure he's meaning classical liberal, we can say, but I haven't heard an explanation, and I'm curious. I have nothing against the guy, but I'm just curious.
He did have he put out a tweet like a couple days later with a very simplistic explanation. But he's been on a crusade for a couple of months now, kind of off and on about like taking the word back because the liberals have ruined the word liberal. And I've always been
say hold on to libertarian and anarchist while we still can, and worry about that more than liberal, because it's a little too far gone for my taste at this point.
Yeah. I find it really funny though, because all three of the people that I just named have told me to my face that they do not want to run for president.
Of course.
Like
that's how you know they're definitely running for president, when they say, I don't even know if I want to. I've heard Dave say it on like Tim Pool and stuff like that. Man, I really don't want to. Bullshit. Come on. You're doing it. Yeah, I don't know. But they it seems like anytime they're beating around the bush, they definitely don't want to. Oh, you're twisting my arm here. I've already got the paperwork done up, but you're twisting my arm, man.
Yeah, I definitely have suspicions at how long Dave was playing that game and how long he was being serious. I can tell that Spike definitely just actually legitimately doesn't want to do it again. And same with Justin. I really believe him that he's kind of done.
Sure.
He wants to spend some time with his family. And
he had his exploratory committee, and now he's exhausted from it. So
that whole month of non-campaigning.
Yes. That to be quite frank, that rubbed me the wrong way. Again, I don't know that much about the guy. I don't have anything against him personally. I invited him on the debate that I did on my show that had all the other 11 or 12 candidates on it, because he was like just talking about entering the race at that time, and I was like, come on, I don't care, do it. But the exploratory thing at the very end of campaigning, after people have been campaigning their asses off for 2 years, and you're gonna poke your head in and be like, hey guys, Golden Boy's here, and the LP is like, hey guys, Golden Boy's here, screw all you schmucks over here. And I think he was right to dip back out, just like Homer fading into the bushes behind him, like, never mind, this is what the Libertarian Party is. Like, I would support him if he ran, or if he like got the nomination or whatever, but there's not that much that excites me about a guy who is no longer the only libertarian congressman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was correct in his assumption that he could just walk in and claim the nomination. If he had stayed through to the convention, he would have gotten the nomination.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Flying colors, especially given what actually happened. Like, because I think if he hadn't come in and made Ken Armstrong drop out, Ken might have ended up with it.
Sure.
Because I know a lot of people that ended up voting for Joe that were more Team Armstrong. Mm-hmm. But without him on the ballot, like, she really was the best, like, palatable, praggy type candidate left, and that's sad.
And like I was shocked when she got the nomination, just because, like, I had gone to the Illinois convention. That's where I met up with Furman the first time and got in on that. And then I was working on the campaign, so I got to know the people a little bit more. Oh, Joe didn't come to my debate either. Everybody but Joe and the newly entered Justin Amash did not come to my debate. But Joe was cool. I worked with her personally. I have nothing against her. Like, I would love to have her as a grandma. I just don't want her as a presidential candidate for the party. That's all. Like, she's good on paper, but she's Joe Jorgensen, and that's right. Fine. She has a place somewhere. It's just not there. Like, I think
she has a dungeon in that place.
Yeah, sure. The combination of her and Spike could have been much better than it was, I think. Mm-hmm. And I am biased, obviously. Like, I came in, Spike brought me in and fought for me, and Spike's my boy and all that. But I think that with her, like, relating to the Prags more and the button-up people, and Spike kind of being a little bit of everything. Like, he's got some Mises to him, he's got some rad to him, he's got some Prag to him whenever he puts his shirt on, which isn't very often. But the combination of the two, having a radical person and a pragmatic person who are both very principled libertarians, I thought had tremendous amount of potential. And I feel like a lot of it was squandered based on what we're seeing now with this type of video thing, like the committee decisions, the bureaucracy, and them kind of not wanting to go the distance with the radical stuff and the extreme stuff. And in a moment where we're talking about Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, I know that we say this every 4 years, like this is the prime opportunity, this is a libertarian moment, but I feel like anybody should have been able to rally around the message good enough to, get a little bit more attention than they did at that point.
Yeah. And let's not forget that between the two of them, they carried the endorsement of every major and minor caucus in the party.
Right. Yeah.
Like that, you're right. That should have been like the unifying thing. It's like, all right, we all feel represented by this ticket. Like, everyone in the party should have been able to hear at least something from both of them that they loved enough to latch onto them. Like if it was either of the other parties, like they were way more than good enough comparatively to the party for people to fall in line behind them, and it just didn't happen. And they didn't really get the support of the other candidates that had lost. They didn't really get the support of each other, and it just turned into what it was, which is really sad.
Yeah, it is. They could have been two ends to a magnet, like positive and negative, good in both ways. But instead, it seemed like positive and positive, and I don't know. I feel like from what I witnessed, Spike did his best to play his part of propping her up. I don't mean that in a disparaging way to her, but like supporting her in every way that he could, even in times where he disagreed with her on messaging or disagreed with her, like that. He did his job of playing the VP role. And I alluded to earlier, I was hired and then I was fired and then I was rehired and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of weird stuff like that going on where it seemed like they were kind of begrudgingly taking on certain talents like myself just based out of necessity rather than they saw the value in it and, chose it because they kind of burned some bridges and, put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Not to mention the 2 months of no website, no logo, no, hit the ground running campaign stuff. I don't know. It was. I
mean, it doesn't help that no one, including Joe Jorgensen, thought that Joe Jorgensen was going to get the nomination.
I can't confirm that, but I feel like you are absolutely right there. I think they were just as shocked as the rest of us. But Vermin Supreme's team, we had web designers, we had video, we had graphic designers, and all sorts of people who were a lot of the Vermin people. I mean, Joe certainly wasn't their cup of tea by any stretch, but they were like, we will play ball. Here, we'll lend our services to you. I don't know all the specifics, because I've had a little beef with some of those guys as well, so I don't know how they presented themselves or whatever. But to my understanding and what I witnessed, they were saying, "Hey, we will work with you on this. Let's do this." And they were like, "Oh, no, we've got our own web guys, and it's going to come out any day now." And it did eventually. And then the other logo came out eventually, and then there was all sorts of weirdness, but whatever. Hindsight 2020.
Literally. I was very sad, and I basically given up on not given up on the LP, because I've been an active enrolled big L libertarian since 2016. I joined the party. I literally registered to vote as a libertarian. I was never not a libertarian.
Sure.
Because I was 19 in 2016. It was my first year voting. I worked for Tulsi Gabbard in the Democratic primary. And while that was going on and the shit show that is every libertarian presidential primary was happening, and, we had 17 candidates or some dumb shit like that. And, they're all dropping out. And I'm just like, I'm just going to focus on Tulsi. I'm not a delegate, so whatever happens, and the delegates can choose whoever, and I'll support whoever they choose. So I got very uninvested until Tulsi dropped out a week before Justin announced his exploratory committee. There was like a very short period there. And then so when he announced, I was like, oh yeah, okay, fine, Justin. Like obviously I picked Justin. And then he dropped out and I was just like, I was actually like, if I had gone to the convention, I would have voted for Vermin Supreme.
Yeah.
And I very much disliked Vermin for a long time. Even like up until then, like I met him during the primary and just was kind of rubbed interestingly by the team. And like they were at a Tulsi event, and like telling me that like, oh, Tulsi doesn't have a chance of winning. You should support us. And
you should support Vermin Supreme for the Libertarian Party because he has
totally
a better chance of winning.
Exactly. And like me being having been in the party for years and worked on multiple campaigns, I ran for office in 2019. Like I know how truthful of a statement that is coming from like Team Supreme.
I never thought that he was gonna win. I thought he had a fair chance of winning the nomination for the LP, and I made a strong case for it. And I had a bunch of people on my show. I had like Brian McWilliams on to endorse him. I had Howie Snowden on to endorse him. I even had Josh Dial from Tiger King on my show, and he endorsed Vermin Supreme. Like I was going to bat for him, and I love Vermin Supreme very, very much. I disagree with him on some things politically, but I have nothing at all to say negatively about that man. His team. A lot of good people there. A lot of good. A few of them kind of sully it for the rest, and I'm not going to name names because it's water under the bridge for me. Like it doesn't matter. But I think that if like I was pushing so hard for Vermin because no, I don't think he's going to be president, and I don't think anybody really thought deep down that Vermin Supreme would ever be president of the United States. If they did, I think they're being dishonest with themselves. Same goes for Joe Jorgensen for that matter. But like just the attention that it would get, just the attention, like, you know, it's kind of like the New Hampshire billboard right now that went up, and nobody cares about the billboard except the media. They're like, what is this atrocity? We have to report on this. That's what Vermin Supreme would have been for the Libertarian Party. They wouldn't really care about his philosophies or his principles necessarily, but he would be able to sprinkle a little bit of that in there with his magic gay dust. And he would have been on Joe Rogan. You know that for sure. He would have been on all these major platforms just because people want a bit of the craziness that is Vermin Supreme. And
I would love to see Rogan Supreme.
Oh, that'd be
that
great.
Would be amazing.
That'd be great. I'd be down.
Except he'd have to like put the headphones on and then put the boot on top of the headphones.
Just like wrap them in front of it so they're like hanging down in his face. Yeah.
I 100% agree. He would have gotten so much more media attention, so much more just attention. His following was already 10 times that of the LP, let alone Jorgensen. Yeah. And it's so interesting. I talk to people that know the name and don't know that he's a libertarian.
Yeah.
So the amount of like newbies in the movement that I've talked to, and it's been something that I've tried to do most of this year on Twitter is like kind of find these people in conversations, you know, that are asking questions and, you know, move it to the DMs and like just people that are like, hey, what is a caucus? You know, just try to like ease them in. And so
it's
many
basically
people...
a Facebook group. Like that's really all it takes. just a Facebook group and put caucus in the title and you've got yourself a caucus, my friend.
Some of them are about breakfast themed restaurants. Some of them are about different kinds of food. Some of them are about the attire of Olympic teams.
Absolutely. Yes.
But yeah, it's interesting how many people like come into the party through somebody else or just like the basic ideas of it. Like they run into us on Twitter somehow. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that he was one of you, but I loved that guy. They've known about Vermin for years.
Yeah, my only concern with that is that, yes, everybody knows about Vermin Supreme, but I didn't know that he was a libertarian up until like 2 years ago, I think, at Porkfest. I was like, Vermin Supreme's here. Vermin Supreme's a libertarian? Like, that could have been a good thing. It also could have been a bad thing because it did seem to bring in a lot of kind of the trolls against the system, which there's some value in that. That's what Vermin Supreme is, so that's who he attracts. But his general messaging and the thing that people know about him isn't Like they hear the jokes, and if you look deep into the jokes to figure out what he's actually saying, there's some libertarian messaging in there. But on the surface, the people that are interested in him are nihilistic and just want to like burn the system down, which I kind of agree with them on that, but I don't know that it would have been necessarily a benefit to the party to have a bunch of nihilistic trolls coming in to troll the system. I don't know. I'm not sure. It could have been great.
Yeah. I think that's like the other side of what we were talking about earlier about the more like logical and not going after feelings. I think even those of us in the movement that might have been more like left wing in the like truest like sense of it, where the more feelings creative oriented kind of people, those of us that have been in the movement for a couple of years, like we're dead inside. Like
I don't feel anything anymore. What are you talking? That's why some of you guys are like, wow, your videos are amazing. They made me remember that I have a little bit of soul left after the Libertarian Party devoured it years ago.
Like either the party or the system or the duopoly or just our lives in general have just like beat most of us down to a point where we're raging against the system because it fucked up everything that we hold dear, and it's very difficult to hit people's emotions if you're a nihilist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're the unity guy, right?
I was for a while. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, so it was started by Reed Coverdale, who's my best friend. He had a post January 1st that was, I believe, actually one of your videos. There was a Jorgensen Cohen ad. Honestly don't remember if it was one of yours or not. And he was just like, he tagged probably 12 or 13 like prominent libertarians and was just like, can this be the message going forward? Because it was a video about unity and like coming together and under this ticket. And so he tagged like Spike and Joe and Larry and Justin Amash and Dave Smith and Tom Woods and all these people, and actually got like in the replies of that tweet, we have like Dave Smith and Spike Cohen having like an actual cordial conversation for the first time publicly in a while. And just a bunch of people that normally wouldn't get along getting along in the replies there. And but yeah, it was basically me, him, and our friend Jeremy Todd kind of like championed it for a couple of days, and then Dave Smith was literally made a group chat that was the three of us and him, where he would reach down and was like, hey, I really like this unity thing. I would like to see the infighting go away. I know that I haven't always done my part to help that. And I know that I'm an instigator. And so I'd love, like, he was literally asking for our advice on how to be better on the unity thing, which I found really cool. Like, so I was a Dave Smith hater for a while. But when he reached out, I was like, okay, that's all you need to do for me to give you like an actual real chance is like try. And he was very much trying. And I was like, all right, yeah. So unity was a thing for a couple of months until like June, July time period, things started to disintegrate.
What was it that turned you to the dark side?
Well, it was a culmination of like 3 or 4 different things that happened simultaneously, for the most part. So the Pennsylvania convention happened, and that was, the Mises Caucus kind of got blocked in their takeover there, and there was a bunch of disgruntled people, and that like soured a lot of people because a lot of people were there for it.
Right.
So
this quasi corruption that seems to be the trend in the LP these days.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
But
the anti-takeover, which is taking over all the states in a very shady manner.
Yeah. Not a fan of that at all.
Not either.
So that was happening. Someone got accused of assault, to the best of my knowledge, falsely or mostly falsely. And that drove a wedge between a lot of people because this person was part of the unity group. And so people were throwing stones at all of us. And there were a lot of people that didn't want to take the fall for this guy because they didn't know him that well, and were going to stick their neck out for him. And so that started to sow division even amongst the Unity crew, and not really actually division, but just
how libertarian. Let's start
right.
a Unity thing and then attack each other for it.
Right. And like, I'll give people credit that like no one like rage quit the group chat really.
Yeah.
But just like slowly people started to just, dip out, and the Unity chat on Twitter literally just turned into a drama fest, because it was like where you go to get the Unity perspective on the drama.
Right.
Like,
right.
And that's really all you need a Unity perspective on is drama.
Right.
So it was just constantly about who's fighting who and who's mad at this person, and this person said that thing. And then I got burned by the entire Mises caucus for going on the Fakertarians show and defending them for an hour and a half. So
I haven't seen it. I would be interested in watching it. I've only watched their show when they had Josh, and then when they had Jeremy on. I think that's it. But yeah.
I watched bits and pieces of the Josh Smith clusterfuck. I really was only watching because my girlfriend was on that one. And I was...
Who's your girlfriend?
Caitlin Cloven.
Oh, really? Okay.
Weird.
No, she's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a meeting with her. I have a meeting with your girlfriend tomorrow, David.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for Spike stuff.
But yeah, so I like tuned in for a couple of seconds here and there, and it was just, I was like, nope, I can't watch this.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, like, I definitely threw out some criticisms of Dave and Josh Smith and like the caucus as a whole, and I agreed with Fakertarians on a couple of things, but for the most part, I was being the Unity guy. Like, that's my job. Like, right. I'm going on this person's show to defend these guys, and then literally 3 days later I went on the LP Pennsylvania Mises Caucus show to defend like the quasi corrupt people that we're talking about. Like, that's just what I was doing. But Josh didn't like the fact that I went on that show, and then a bunch of people kind of followed suit. I lost 250 followers in 48 hours. That was fun.
Nice. That's how it goes. And I'll turn things back over to you, because I realize that I'm interviewing you now, and it's been a while since I've been on somebody else's show. But yeah, it's interesting, and you're welcome to come on my show, and we can dig into more of the drama. I was just curious about the Unity thing, because I've heard stuff around about it, but and I was all for like Liberty Unity, the idea of it. I was never in any of the groups or anything like that, but even after the Jorgensen Cohen campaign, I put out the video. I don't remember what it's called. Oh, About a Revolution, I think was the title of it. And I just put in every libertarian notable that I could think of, just as a way of saying, it was kind of hearkening back to the Vermin Supreme one that it did, where it said, we have already won. That one came out like the day of the convention, before the voting and all that. I put that out as a way of saying, doesn't matter. We've already won. We did our best. We did it lovingly, and love wins, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. And then, then at the end of all the Jorgensen stuff, I would put out this video on my own, hearkening back to that, because I was all about, Liberty Unity and stuff. I put like Reason guys in there. I put in Sarwark. I put in Amash and Josh Dial, even a lot of people that I wouldn't have put in these days. So it's just interesting how quickly things change when people start to, I don't know, show their colors and stuff. And I think it's tragic. I think Will, what's his name? McVeigh, that I just interviewed. Like, I think he's a great guy. And I ended that interview with, dude, I don't think you're a shitbag. And I think the stuff that you're talking about that you want to do for liberty, I think that's all great. The only way that you can ever accomplish that is by resigning from your position immediately and letting things get put back, because this is not going to help liberty. This tyrannical overthrow of a party is not going to help your cause if your cause is liberty. If it's to give yourself a little bit more power for a couple more months, then go for it. But I don't think it's going to end the way you think it is. And it's tragic to see all that stuff happening in like New Hampshire and Massachusetts and now Delaware. So
yeah, this region's interesting.
Yeah, New England bastards.
Like, all those states are in my LNC region,
right?
And like, our rep resigned over the first one, so the other two happened. It's been a very weird year.
Where are you at again?
New York.
Okay, Gotcha.
So
how's that going for you? I'm sorry, I'm not interviewing you. I can't stop. Sorry.
But yeah, I loved the unity thing, and I feel like we still did good work throughout those 6 months, and honestly, like the unity thing was never gonna work long term, and that was kind of like Reed and I kind of came to that agreement when he made a video on his show where he kind of like unity is dead, but not really. More of a unity is a constant thing, not a destination. Like we're not just going to unite the party and then everything's fixed, everyone's going to get along now. And him and I both came into it very naively because we didn't know the fucking drama. We don't know why these people hate each other. Like I knew more than he did, but even I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why Josh Smith used to be a fakertarian and now he's a Mises coffee. Like, I don't know that. Like, I didn't have any clue. I was just like, why can't you guys get along? Like, obviously, like we're talking about like broken marriages and like kids and like so much like really horrible drama has happened in this party. Like people sleeping with other people's spouses and like just shit's gone down. Like there's people that are never going to get along ever.
It's true, and it's unfortunate, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, it seems to me like the people doing the most harm are the people. Frankly, from what I've witnessed, from what I've seen, seems like the fakertarian types are doing more damage here, and it just seems less succinct with what libertarianism actually is, and I don't. Whatever, like I don't have any beef with those guys personally or anything like that, but when you start a podcast that is the intent of it is to ridicule other people who are doing better than you, it's like, why? Who cares? Like there's no real benefit from that, and we don't need to get into a debate about the fakertarians. Who cares? There's 150,000 libertarian podcasts. Why do we care about that one? I don't know, but
so I think their original intention and like the group and like what they were when Josh was still there is noble, even though like I agree with you, it's very antithetical to the movement and like everyone can't be like this, but having at least like a couple of groups of people whose job it is to like call out bad actors that, you know, like running out people like Christopher Chase Rachel's, like that was a good thing that they did because he does not belong in this party. And I think we do need to police our own. I mean, that one's an older story that happened before I actually got involved. But
if it's a long story, I don't.
Well,
really
I mean,
care,
he's just an actual like unironic like Nazi. Like I don't like throwing that word around, but he's just like straight up white nationalist. Like
I'll take your word for it.
You know. But so like and we've definitely touched those types of people fairly regularly throughout our existence as a movement. Like we've had multiple candidates from our party get endorsed by David Duke. Like that's a thing that's happened and we can't really ignore. And so like having somebody whose job it is to be like, okay, these guys are not too bad. Like defend the people who are kind of like on the line and then call out the people who cross the line, I think is noble. But now no one listens to them. No one respects them enough to actually like when they call someone a racist.
Cross the line of calling people out into everybody's evil, everybody's bad. It seems like if there was a noble cause for, you know, the libertarian #MeToo movement or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Like, yes, we should call out bad actors. And I don't think we necessarily need a podcast that's dedicated to that, because then you end up with they're the CNN of the Libertarian Party now. They just have to have something. They have to have some drama to talk about, just like CNN's 24-hour news coverage. They have to fill that time with something, and their rage bait is the only thing that gets them clicks. So now they have to make up their rage to keep those clicks rolling in. And it's not a long-term strategy, and I don't think it's helping anyone at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot more good can be done by the people who are just kind of, I don't even know how to describe this, but I feel like there is a number of people who would consider themselves not a member of the party, barely even a member of the movement, but just like helping out here and there. You know, like a lot of writers for like FEE or like Reason, and you know, there's a lot of people, and like, even yourself, you said that you've not been that heavily invested throughout the whole time. You're not a member of the caucus officially. You're not like part of this takeover
I don't show
or
up to
anything
meetings.
like that.
I don't do the bureaucracy bullshit. I'll do it for like the national conventions and stuff like that. And I was supposed to go to the Illinois convention this week and meet up with Spike Cohen, but I had a wedding book, so it's paying me, and they're not yet, obviously. But I'm here to serve however I can. But if you're asking me to like drive a couple hours to sit in on a meeting to talk about the bylaws, I'm just not going to do that. Not going to do that. There are nerds. There are different brands of autism, different than mine, that are more equipped for that type of business, and I'm the different brand. Okay,
right. I'm with you on that one. I'm a member of my state committee, and that's literally what made me go from a libertarian minarchist to an anarchist. Was when I realized, because I always had that like lofty like constitutional conservative background of like the American experiment might have worked if done just a little bit better, and we stuck to our principles,
just like socialism. So close every time, but never quite
close.
There. Yes.
It's like if just the right people were in charge, then the system would work. Right.
Yep.
And then I started getting more heavily involved with the Libertarian Party and actually joined my state committee and realized that if libertarians were in Congress, it would be worse, not better.
Explain.
Like, I think less things would get done than currently get done. Like, there would be more infighting, more like bullshit, more drama.
I feel like the best thing that we could ask for right now is some wrench to go in there and clog up the works a little bit and at least slow things down, because we're on a rapid train right off a cliff. So, hey, if they can stick a fork in those train tracks just a little bit, it wouldn't hurt.
This is fair. But I feel like if the world was run by libertarians in like a similar system that we have right now, like I really just don't believe that it would solve many problems, especially after watching like New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Delaware just happen, and the stuff that just happened with the LNC, and like I just had
a guy admit to me, yes, I conspired to overthrow a party, and yes, it was morally corrupt and bankrupt, and I did it anyway because it had to be done. Those are the words of a fucking politician right there. I don't agree. Like he said multiple times, I don't agree with what I did, but it had to be done. What does that sound like? Does that sound like a libertarian, or does it sound like a fucking Democrat Republican? Like that sounds like the words of Joe Biden pulling out or entering into Afghanistan. My hands were tied. There was nothing I could do. Like, if we can't be better than that, then we have zero value. And the only reason I hope for unity is so that we can actually push this stuff forward. I don't really care if a libertarian gets into Congress. I don't care if one gets into the White House. I just want more people to agree that leave me the fuck alone. Like that's it. That's all I want. And if you want to go on believing socialism is going to save somebody, great. You can live in your delusion however you want, but don't force that on me. And we're good. We're cool. So like the more like even Dave Smith says it all the time. Like the best thing that we can do is to wake up at as many people as we possibly can before this thing collapses, because it's going to collapse. And I do think that it is. And if I'm like, let's say tomorrow the grid goes down and there's no electricity or something, like I would rather know that I woke up my neighborhood and I'm in a space, a safe space, but that's you guys' term, in a safe space of like-minded people who aren't going to encroach on me and stuff like that, like convincing them of that religion, basically that moral structure of, which I think everybody deep down has, and it shouldn't be a hard sell. Like I wouldn't even have to talk to them about politics, but the more we can convince people, hey, this thing, that moral value that we all have deep down, this system that we have built around us that we didn't choose, it goes against that. Like that's really all that matters. Like when it comes down to it, is the person next door to you going to come in and steal your shit? If not, then it doesn't matter if they're a libertarian, doesn't matter what they call themselves. All that matters is you're safe and your family's safe, and so is theirs.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a difference between like the philosophical like code of libertarianism versus like the political ideals of libertarianism,
Yeah.
Because there are so many people that could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours about libertarian theory and quote Hoppe and Mises and all these other people, and write beautiful platform pieces for our candidates and be just like the most expert policy libertarians that anyone has ever seen. And then shit goes down, they're gonna rob from their neighbor.
Sure.
Like they're gonna be the first ones. They are ready. They have the guns because they're smart libertarians, and they're like, oh, now I get to go. And they're gonna like go fuck these fucking libtards didn't plan ahead, and now they don't have guns, and now I get to be king of my neighborhood.
Right.
And they will switch into that instantaneously when shit hits the fan. And then there's so many people who have never voted for a libertarian, never read a single libertarian author, who when shit hits the fan are going to be good libertarians.
Right.
In practice.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. And when we say like everybody's a libertarian deep down, I think it, for the most part, I mean, that might be an exaggeration. I think some people are total shitbags that would, like you said, absolutely steal from their neighbors. But deep down, I think your general, at least where I am, which I'm in the middle of a cornfield in the middle of nowhere, so I'm not in that big of danger. You're in New York. That's a different thing. But yeah, I think that a lot of libertarians, you're absolutely right. I noticed that Hoppe was the one name that you mentioned in there as far as people quoting somebody who will, which I admittedly, I don't know anything about him. I know that certain people love him to death, probably more than they should, and certain people hate him to death, probably more than they should. But was there a reason why that was the only name you dropped in your example there?
I was just trying to think of someone, and his name was the first one to come to mind, to be perfectly honest.
I assumed. I was just checking.
Yeah, but there are definitely there's a specific camp that loves him more than the rest of the movement, and
sure.
I would definitely trust them less as my neighbors. Let's just say.
Okay. Again, I don't know.
But it wasn't intentional.
Him or his beliefs or anything. Like, I don't read. I've undiagnosed ADHD. It's been confirmed many times. But if I read something, I've had what's it called? Not Anatomy of the State, Economics in One Lesson on my desk for like since Pork Fest, and I've read like 2 chapters of it, and I have to like read a paragraph and then start over because I have to absorb everything. Like if I'm going to spend the time doing it, I have to fully process all of it, and I'll just read and then be like, what the hell did I just read, and start back over. It's annoying as hell, but I don't read. I listen to podcasts. Every now and then I'll listen to an audiobook, but yeah.
I'm with you. I've been reading 1984 for a little over a year now.
Same actually. I think it has been a little over a year. It's an audiobook too, and yeah. It would be nice to finish because I want to know what's next, since we're obviously at least there, if not a step or two beyond that at this point.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about one more thing. As you're saying, a step or two beyond that, whereas we get closer to 1984. The ad that you put out was on the topic of like mass noncompliance, and I really love that Spike quote of "There's no such thing as government power. There's only what we're willing to comply to."
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking brilliant. I feel like we have a very unique opportunity here where a solid chunk of the country is going like, "Hey, no, fuck you and your rules."
Yeah.
How do we capitalize on that other than making bomb ass ads that wake people up?
Well, we got to make those ads, and then we got to put them on cable or network television, my friend. That is the only. No, just kidding. I think the main thing is just screaming, pitching a fit. Like we need. I know that the higher people like Spike Cohen and Dave Smith, and I think even Justin Amash have not been subtle on their feelings on these mandates and things like that. But I think that is the main way is speaking out about it. If it's not, I say that as somebody that is not affecting personally very closely. Like my wife is dealing with something because she's working in a school, but I work right here all day, every day, except for Saturdays when I'm occasionally shooting a wedding. But it doesn't affect me that much. So for me and for anybody that's in my situation, I would say the main thing is just keep talking, posting, saying everything that you can about this thing, because there's a lot of people I feel like that are in complete agreement with me, and I assume you, on this matter, and they're afraid to talk about it. If they hear somebody, like if I'm walking through a store talking to my friend about it, it's more like if somebody hears me saying things or somebody hears me on your show or my show or something like that, they're going to be more empowered. Empowering people with your words. Like there was a part of me at the beginning where I kind of shied away from it. I feel like we kind of all did because, you know, as confident as we are when we say, oh, we'll fight tyranny when it comes, it's like, but what if this is a really bad disease? And I feel like there was about 2 months where most of the libertarians were like, I don't know about this. My wife, she cleaned our groceries when she brought them home. Like she sprayed them down and shit like that. And I was just like, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be whatever. I don't know. Like, I think that.
Yeah, I was one of those in the first, like when they said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. I don't agree with it, but if that's all this is, that is not that big of a deal. And if in those 2 weeks, you know, we got to wear a mask or stay at home or whatever, I don't agree with it, but that's not that big a deal. And now we're a year and a half later and it's gotten rapidly worse. But yeah, to the people that are in a position where they have to make a hard decision, that's really where you put your nose to the grindstone, axe to the grindstone. I don't know. You choose your old man phrase, but like
back to the dad jokes.
Yes. Like my wife is having to go through it, and everybody has to find their line and then stick to it. If your line is, I will wear a mask, I don't like your choice, but you have to support your family in whatever way you can. And if it is that bad, like if it is so bad that you don't have any other options, then okay. But I think more people need to get more uncomfortable with this thing, like all around, everywhere. Like this is not going to go away until we are extremely uncomfortable. You think you're uncomfortable now. The only way this goes away, the only way this doesn't get way more comfortable is if we be honest, do the thing that you know you're supposed to do. Like, I feel like everybody kind of knows. The people that are against this, they're kind of like, well, that's my line. And when it gets here, I hope I don't have to make that decision. Like, you should start planning on making that decision because it's coming. And if the mass non-compliance thing, like Spike Cohen says in the ad, like government makes up 5% of the population. If 10% of the population says, fuck you, then this thing goes away. And I don't know exactly what it takes, but as I am doing my little part, which is video, and I didn't expect it to ever go anywhere or do anything. I didn't expect people to be demanding that the LP use my videos or whatnot. I never signed up for that. But if you start doing the little bit that you can now, as things progress, like it's gonna have some sort of payoff in the long run. I think with this thing, there are people who are suffering and losing their jobs. The nurses that were heroes not 6 months ago are now being fired because they're not complying. And good on them, bad on the people carrying it out, obviously. But that's what it takes. Like, make them send in the National Guard. I don't want it any more than you do, but make them have to bring in people with guns to do nursing and see if that lasts. It might last, and it might get a lot worse, but it's gonna get to that point either way. It's like we either talk now and try and head it off, and maybe it still comes, but it's coming if you say nothing, for sure. So start speaking up, stop wearing masks generally always, unless you absolutely have to. I don't know. I hear a lot of podcasters say things like, oh, I'll never wear a mask, but I did, if I'm asked to, I'll wear it. It's like, why? Like, you're not even going to ask that. You're not even going to push back a little bit. You're not even going to make it a little uncomfortable for them. Like, I had a situation where I was going to a vape shop this last week, and it was a local brick and mortar place that I like to support. And I've gone in there in the last few months, and they haven't made me wear a mask or anything. I go in this time, they had 4 signs on the door. You absolutely have to wear a mask. And I go in without a mask on, and there's one guy in there. He pulls up his mask when I walk in. He wasn't wearing it before. And then he gives me the whole spiel of, oh, you have to wear a mask. And I'm like, oh, really? No, I don't. And what it came down to was this guy is running a vape shop, which is already a target for the cops. They don't want the shop there. They want any excuse that they can find to shut down this vape shop. And he's had 3 cops in the last month do an unannounced, like, patrol into his business to see if anybody's not wearing masks. So it's annoying, but I put on the mask then because I'm like, I don't want your business shut down. I don't support you complying with this either, but I'm not going to be the one that gets you shut down either. So there's a lot of gray area, and a lot of people will act like there isn't, but there is. But we need to lean more towards the side of, the extreme crazy views of nothing, doing absolutely nothing. It's the easiest time to be a rebel in this country. All you have to do is nothing.
Act normal.
Yes. Just live your life, and you're a fucking rebel these days. So, if you've got that spirit, what's stopping you at this point? You got your wish.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point that like this is uncomfortable, but I think the people in Australia are a lot less comfortable.
Right.
Like
yes. People who are being choked out for not wearing their mask. This is a health issue, but you're going to have a cop strangling you. I posted on Twitter something like, the secret is it turns out that COVID needs oxygen to survive. That's why they were making us wear the mask the whole time. This man wasn't harming her. He was saving her life. She had COVID. He was strangling out the COVID. Good job. Back the boys in blue.
It's fantastic. I liked what you just said about like this is the easiest time to be a rebel, because that's super true. I know that I especially grew up, and most people my age, within the millennial generation, we grew up on books and movies like Harry Potter or Percy Jackson or the Hunger Games or all of these stories of like rebellion and like kids standing up to the tyranny of it's just all of this. It's just we got pumped full of it our entire fucking childhood.
Being the underdog. It's the best thing. The one person against the entire system. That is what we were raised on. And now they're like, hey, you're just one person. Sit down, shut up.
Right. And I feel like so much of us grew up being like, oh, I just wish that I could live through something like Harry Potter where, even if we're not Harry Potter, right? Like we want to be another student at Hogwarts during that who gets to fight with him. We want to be part of Dumbledore's army, just part of that. I got really nerdy there for a second. But we always we grew up just like yearning for this fight. And then now we're in the position where we actually get to do it if we want. We all get our childhood dream of fighting the fucking system, of not complying, of saying no, fuck you, of going into school and not doing what our teachers are saying for a good reason, not because we're assholes, but because these people are horrible.
It's a very interesting point, and it's like not only did they convinced us to do these things, but a lot of the way that they convinced us to comply with these things is by convincing these people that they're heroes and that they're saving people and that they are the underdogs if they do this, and that all the anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, anti-whatever you want to call them, they are the evil ones, and you are the one lone person standing up against that. Like they've completely flipped it on its head, when in reality, the vast majority of people are just complying whether they want to or not. And the only rebels in this, the underdogs, the people, the Harry Potters, if you will, or the Luke Skywalkers of the world, are the ones that are saying, no, fuck you. I'm literally just gonna live and shut up.
Yeah. And because I think it touched on that underdog thing because we're fighting COVID, which is big and scary and impossible to beat. So humans are clearly the underdog in this fight against a disease with a 99% survival rate.
Right. The most boring action movie ever. He was so far away from death that it was really exciting. Yes.
It really had us comfortably in our seats.
It was like if John Wick was just a movie about him killing his dog. His dog was the threat, and he overcame that hurdle. That's what you guys are. Good job. You shot your dog.
Is this an ATF recruiting video?
Yes. I was looking for a joke there about the feds or something.
Yeah. So how do we convince people that wearing a mask does not make you a hero, and in fact it's the opposite?
Well, it doesn't work, so you're a fucking idiot if you're doing it. How about that? Like, that's a start.
I like that one.
Like, there's so many people right now that are just wearing masks because, like, it's been pointed out many, many times. This is theater. The CDC has gone back and forth, and I believe they've come to the conclusion that your mask doesn't do anything. So if you want to trust the science, maybe trust the CDC this one time at least, when they're actually saying reasonable things like your freaking bandana is not going to prevent the most dangerous and deadly pandemic that has ever wreaked havoc on this world. I'm just going to put this bandana on. That'll really stop it. Yeah, no, it's not doing anything. You look stupid. You sound stupid. I don't know what you're saying. And it's doing absolutely nothing. And I don't know how to get that point across to people because I've been saying it for a year to a year and a half, but it's not doing anything. And I don't know, like if you want to, it's more help to humanity right now to take it off because like for me, I'll walk through Target and it'll be like the Twilight Zone with a bunch of crazy people masked up thinking that they're going to die, which obviously they don't. If this was so terrible, we wouldn't be going into Target at all. We definitely wouldn't be going into Walmart because you run the risk of dying there anyway. But the mask,
you're going to get herpes there, not COVID.
Yes, just walking through Walmart, you might get the herpes, but the mask is doing nothing. And I've been saying this whole time, like, take your mask off, smile at people as big as you can. Like, don't be like, I think they're all crazy too, but be the most welcoming, loving person and remind them what humanity feels like. Remind them what it feels like to stare somebody in the face and know what they're thinking just based on their facial expressions. Remind them what it feels like to interact humanly with other humans, because that's what they've taken away from us. Like, this isn't just, oh, you just got to wear a mask and I know it's a little uncomfortable. No, this is brainwashing. We have kids that are in like 5th grade right now where like the majority of their life they've been forced, they haven't been allowed to see their teacher's face, they haven't been allowed to see their peers' face. Like, that is some brainwashing shit right there, and that it's emotionally damaging. It is child abuse, and even for the adults, you're being brainwashed. That is the rebellion that you think you're fighting, but you are being brainwashed because this doesn't work and it's harming you. For your sake and for everybody else's sake, take it the fuck off and smile and be welcoming. And when somebody else does it, don't remind them of all the times that they wore a mask and how stupid they were. Just embrace them with open arms, without fear, and know that we're in this together and we're going to make it out of it because we're humans. We overcome tyranny every time.
Yeah, I was really just almost scared straight on the, like, really how badly this is. I was with my friend picking up her kids from school, and she asked like what color card the kid got, because they have like every time you do something wrong, they like demote you a little bit, and so you have a color at the end of the day that describes exactly how good you were. And her kid was good, but started like tattletaling on like, oh well, this kid had a red card. And she asked like, oh, well, what did they do that was bad? And oh, well, they don't keep their mask on. And I'm like, we're literally like giving kids detention for not wearing a mask. That's a thing that exists. And I've seen pictures of like people's scorecards or like test grades being marked down because they weren't wearing their mask correctly.
You are
during the test.
Education department, not the health department. And the health department is having a hard enough time doing their own job. They don't need you to do it for them. You are education, not disciplinary, not even raising. You are the brainwashing section. So good job. You're doing way better than you ever have. But it is impressive how these teachers, they either want to have all this power. They want to sit at home and do their shit. But most of them don't want to go to work. Most of them are using this to stay out of work, and it's frightening. And to them I say, don't go back to work, please, because I don't want you raising my children, and I doubt anybody else does either. If you're terrified of the 0.001% chance you have of dying from kids who have a 0.00001% chance of dying, maybe the job's not cut out for you, madam.
And like teachers, like that's been a thing that teachers talk about constantly. I had a lot of my parents' friends growing up were teachers, and they get sick all the fucking time. Like that's just something that teachers know when they go into their career path is like, you are going to be around a bunch of germy, sick, snotty, don't know how to wash their hands correctly and don't care third graders your entire life. Like you are going to get the flu almost every year if you're a teacher. Like that's just something that I've heard my entire life of like a sacrifice that they make on top of the other things that make them heroes in our society is like they're willing to get sick for their kids. Apparently that changed.
I mean, kids are snot bags that smell like Cheerios and they're awful. I have 2 of them, so I know. But yes, if you're going to get into a job with them, expect there to be a few germs floating around, even if those germs have a slightly higher chance of harming you. I mean, just the fact that, it's the same as the nurses, like all these people, the nurses, the military, the teachers and stuff, like they were called heroes a minute ago. The ones that are scared to come back, they shouldn't be called heroes and they shouldn't be fired. They should quit on their own volition. But yes, all these people are being fired, man. And it's just fucking tragic that as much as I disagree with pretty much all of those occupations for many reasons, like the fact that they went from working their asses off to make a career for themselves, they're in tremendous amounts of debt, probably even the military men, and now they're just being thrown to the wayside as part of a lesser tier in society is unthinkable in America. Like go back several weeks, unthinkable. And now it's only like there are some people that still consider it unthinkable, but it's currently happening right before our eyes. And a lot of people are just blind to it, not paying attention. It's frightening.
Yeah. I want to highlight one thing that you said in your last statement about like, don't remind people of all the times that they wore a mask. Because I think one of my favorite things that I've been seeing online the last couple of weeks is like, people burning their vaccine cards. And we have to understand that like there's a lot of people in that kind of camp of, they were duped or absolutely brainwashed or whatever, just like I admitted to being for the first like month of this. Some people it lasted significantly longer. Some of them, are really concerned. Like my sister got vaccinated. My niece has a heart defect where if the baby had caught COVID, like she would have most likely died. Like that's just because of the underlying conditions. And like there's other members of her side of like her in-laws family that also have a lot of underlying health conditions. Like if COVID went through that side of the family, they were fucked. And actually her father-in-law died of COVID. So like it was a thing that she consciously was not going to let happen. So she got vaccinated. Understandable. She's still not a fan of the passports or the mandates or any of this other shit. But she made a medical decision that, if you are at risk or someone around you is at risk of seriously getting hurt by COVID, like the vaccine does diminish like the symptoms. And originally we thought that it would help not let you transmit it, at least diminish your ability to transmit it. We don't know if that's true anymore, but she was one of the first people to get vaccinated, like back when we still thought that was true. So like, I'm not going to hold that against her. And this, like, we really need to embrace that group of people that's like, I got the vaccine, either because knowing everything still thought it was a good decision or because I was still in brainwashed mode. Like
we need those people.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's so
those
many
people are more valuable than we are. We're the crazy anti-vaxxers who didn't get it. Whether we're anti-vax or not, that's what they can label us. If you're talking about somebody who got it and maybe they've gotten the 3rd booster shot and maybe they're taking the twice daily Pfizer pills, it doesn't matter. If they're on our side as far as this shouldn't be forced on people, meet them there and go with it, because it's almost like if aliens came down and were, there was some global war that was going to break out between us and aliens, we would all unite together to say, hey, we don't agree on anything else, but we agree that we don't want to be killed by aliens. So let's just unite on, like, there would be no libertarians. There would be, I know this is some globalist shit talk, which is probably painful for some of my conspiratarian brethren to hear, but the things that we can unite on, we should unite on. And I think that, we need those people. Absolutely. They have more credibility than us, whether we like it or not. They did the thing, and whether, some of them had bad experiences or whatever, it doesn't really matter. If they're for, I'll take the vaccine and you don't have to take the vaccine, then we're in the same camp. Absolutely. I am perfectly fine. Like, with you I might not think that you should. I might not think it's the best idea. That doesn't really matter to me, though. You should be legally allowed to kill yourself. I care about you, but I don't want you to do that, but you should be legally allowed to do that. Just like I should be legally allowed to kill myself by taking my terrible chances of trusting the antibodies that I developed.
I'm doing it right now. Like,
exactly. And you go to McDonald's, you have a better chance of probably dying from that than you do from, I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Are you still on YouTube?
Yeah. I don't know how. It's probably just because my viewership isn't as good as it used to be.
Sure. Yeah, same here, man. I got banned around, like, they don't like when I talk about Jeffrey Epstein. I've had a bunch of people send me like evidence of my shadow banning and stuff where all these other things come up. Even in my own feed, different things come up. But yeah, they're not fans of me making fun of their boy Jeffrey Epstein, it seems like. But
no.
It's whatever. It's a dying platform. And because we're talking about this at all, if YouTube goes through with what they're trying to do right now, with what they're planning to do, we are all going to be gone anyway. So I'm just kind of letting the freak flag fly at this point, because there's no, like, everybody, when YouTube put this out, you saw them saying any anti-vax stuff at all that they were going to flag. Okay. And that goes for like any vaccine that's ever existed now, past, present, future, it doesn't matter. They're going to kick people off for it. That's their claim. They do flip flop a lot, so who knows? But I was saying to somebody the other day, like, this isn't just anti-vax people. This isn't just libertarians. Like, this is most of the people that you listen to on a daily basis. The only thing they've been talking about for the last year and a half is this stuff. So if YouTube wants to, we are all gone tomorrow. So, I mean, there's value in staying on the platform, but at what point do we say, peace out? We're not going. We're drawing the line in the sand for YouTube. We're gonna, I'm not trying to get you kicked off or anything. That just for me personally on my show, I'm just like, well, whatever. It is what it is. If they want to take me down, they have plenty of reasons to do so based on the new guidelines that they, the bylaws that they snuck into the contract long after I signed it, like 10 years after I signed it. But they've given me a hard time over the years, and I don't make a dime off of it, but it's still the best place to get in front of more people. So I'm still there.
Unfortunately, yeah. Now we do have some competitors, but they're not what YouTube is. Like, they don't have the viewership that YouTube does.
Right.
If YouTube goes through with this, I honestly think they're going to pull an OnlyFans and just like, just kidding, guys. I honestly think that,
like, they'll kick people off and be like, oh, you can come back if you want, but you're going to have to start from scratch, or what? Or just,
no,
like,
I honestly think
completely.
If I was them, which obviously I'm not, but if I was them, I would announce something like that to have a bunch of people like you and me be like, oh, well, fuck you, YouTube, and stop using their platform voluntarily. And then they don't actually have to do anything. They don't have to watch any videos or actually go through the fucking appeals process of the person who, well, I'm not anti-vax. I had an anti-vax guest on and I was debating him. Oh, well, that still counts. Like, they don't have to fuck with that middle ground if they can just scare us all into giving up.
Right. That's how I got kicked off of Facebook, actually. I had a guy on, like, we had done some stuff on QAnon because we talk about conspiracy stuff a lot. And back then it was like, QAnon wasn't even necessarily a 100% Trump thing. It definitely wasn't like a white supremacy thing or whatever they've labeled it since then. But we were just digging into it because my understanding was, oh, there's somebody leaking out some information and there's this weird conspiracy theory that it's coming from Trump's whatever. And, it was interesting. It was like National Treasure in real life. And so we talked about that for a while. And then I had him back on January 5th, so right before January 6th. And I had him on to talk about that stuff, and I grilled him even harder than ever because I was way over it by then. I was like, this is a psyop. I don't believe any of this. And I was grilling him. He's just a great friend of mine, and we just had some healthy, angry back and forth banter. And then the next day I get I get kicked off of Facebook. My wife got kicked off of Facebook. Like 15 of my business pages got kicked off of Facebook. All of her business pages got removed from Facebook. Just because of this one episode, I can only assume at that very bad timing. But I've gotten mine back. They won't let me have a the system is down page on Facebook at all anymore. I've tried putting it back up there, and they're like, no, this is a page that we've banned before, so we won't let you. They haven't let my wife back on at all, and her only crime was being an admin on my Facebook group for the podcast. And there's no appeals process. There's nothing you can do. Like these freaking platforms, they hate you so much. They love the money that you bring in, and they hate everything about you, though, other than that. And they've made this for themselves. They're the ones that made a platform that, encourages, that allows free speech, I guess, and allows people to come in and listen to that, and people got comfortable with that, and now they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot with this. So I hope that you're right, that they're, gonna just kind of let this go away and use it as a kind of a warning shot to get some people to bail. But I'm encouraging as many people as possible to head over to Odyssey. I've been putting my stuff all up there as well, and I'm about to start live streaming there as well, because don't definitely, if you're getting into the business, like, don't put your eggs in the YouTube or the Facebook basket. I made that mistake, and it has been greatly to my detriment. So yeah,
what we need is a StreamYard type replacement or restream kind of a thing that easily integrates with the other platforms,
right?
Because the problem is, like, my StreamYard, it's awesome for YouTube and Facebook and Twitter.
Same reason I haven't started streaming to Odyssey either. I'm like, I've got the button right there for YouTube, and they haven't kicked me off again in a while, so I will try that. But yeah,
and like I can add through like RTMP settings, and like I can go through and I can stream to like this is going on Free Speech Media, which is the little symbol above your head, which is on Facebook, but also Trovo, DLive, and Float. But I don't stream to Odyssey. I don't like how the stream looks on Float necessarily, because I have to like go into Float and change all of the name settings for the stream. Like, it doesn't take it from StreamYard, which none of us do correctly. So like it's just like Free Speech Media Live, and like there's never a description on the video. It's just there because we can't rely on all of us.
We're
to
live.
Go in there
Come get what you get. It's a mystery box.
I think we have like 4 followers on Float.
Yeah. I'm on like, I haven't checked out Float. I've heard of it, but I'm on Rumble and BitChute and HugeTube, which I think is a Donald Trump based site. But HugeTube it's like UGE Tube, which I found hilarious. But their site, the only reason I'm on there is because they have where you, like, if you have a video uploaded to YouTube, you can just copy the URL, paste it in there, and it'll auto import that URL. So I'm just like, this takes me like 2 seconds. I'll put it on there, and people like it. Great. But yeah, all these platforms, like Odyssey is the best, and I'm friends with Jeremy Kaufman and stuff, and he's helped me out there. But Odyssey is great, but yeah, convincing people to join you, and we're all guilty of it at the same time. If you go watch a video, you're probably not going to Odyssey just because we're comfortable in our ways and YouTube is the thing. But there was a time where you could look up something interesting to you, and the recommended things would also be about things that were interesting to you. There was a time when the algorithm worked that way. Like, I could look up a 9/11 conspiracy video and get stuff on flat Earth, the moon landing, and all sorts of crazy shit. And it was great. Same for libertarian stuff. You could look up stuff, and now I get Liberty Mutual ads all day long. That's how their algorithm works now. Like, every single video, Liberty Mutual, and then a bunch of like late night comics in my suggestions. Like, it's trash, and we need to I guess convince more people to realize that they don't want you there. They don't even want you watching stuff there, because they don't support the things that you want to watch. And there are platforms like Odyssey that do. It's just, how do you break the habit? I don't know.
It's interesting that you said late night comedy shows, because like that's what most of my YouTube recommendations are. But I actually watched that stuff and like did before like YouTube started to get shitty. Like, especially when I started this show, I watched hours and hours and hours of Craig Ferguson on the Late Show. Like, just he's one of the all-time best interviewers to ever do it, and is just so charismatic. And I'm like, I want to interview people like Craig Ferguson interviews. I want to be like Craig Ferguson meets Joe Rogan. Somehow combine the two of them, and that's what I'm way far away from both of them. I did not come out the way that I thought I would, but it.
Give it time. Give it time.
I watched a lot of that, so I thought I didn't really think anything of it, but I have noticed it's a lot more. Their propaganda mouthpieces are being promoted a lot heavier than they ever were.
Yeah, and it's like I mean, I look up news stories a lot for my show and news articles and stuff, and so they'll bring up something that has, that's talking about the news article, but it's not even like CNN or something. It's usually these late night people who have proven over the last few, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, I don't know, to be more and more progressively mouthpieces for the establishment. I don't even want to say the left, just the behemoth that is the cathedral, whatever you want to call it. Like, all they're doing, like, if you look up something now that is, if you specifically type in like 9/11 conspiracy theory, I don't care what your opinion is on that, go look it up. What do you get first? Is it something explaining why certain people believe certain ways, or is it somebody saying, here's a debunking, here's why all those people are crazy? Like, that's the main thing you'll find, is why all the things you think that you're looking for, they're trying to talk you out of it, and they're actively trying to talk you out of it. You can find it on maybe page 8, but you'll find some of these conspiracy theory videos, and they're like hundreds of thousands of views, but the thing that YouTube's recommending is like 20,000 views. It's just because that's what they want you to see.
So nobody actually wants to be convinced out of a conspiracy theory. Nobody actually watched those fucking videos.
Right.
Like whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not. If you're not, then you don't look those videos up. No, I don't know anyone that's not a conspiracy theorist that's like, well, I'm going to research my way through 9/11 so I can, when some random dude comes up to me in a bar and starts talking about 9/11, I can tell him why he's wrong. Like, no one does that.
I do. Like, back when I was looking up, I'm crazy and probably autistic. That's fine. I understand that. But back when I was like digging into these things nonstop, I would always look up, okay, now I've dug into that for a while. Now let's hear what the other side has to say about it. Like, let's hear all the reasons why these are wrong. And then if there's still a whole bunch of gray area, then we'll explore more. If the debunking video just flattens it out, I would happily be like, okay, that's obviously bullshit. And we can't do that now. You can't, like, it's not dangerous to hear what other people think. It might be dangerous to like take that and put it into action in some way, but it's not dangerous. Like, if somebody is a racist on YouTube, that's not going to ever convince me to be a racist, because I'm not a racist. Like, the retarded position that you have does not mean because I'm watching it that I agree with it, will believe it, but I would like to understand it. I would like to understand how a human comes to such a retarded conclusion in life. It's just so I can avoid that, or like, see things in my society, like where maybe these signs are showing or something like that. But when you squash these down into the back corners of society, then it just festers. And then you get things like the alt-right, I guess. Like, you kick Alex Jones off, he gets angrier than ever. Unfortunately, he's more right than he's ever been now. But like, all these people, especially not necessarily like the big names like Alex Jones or whatever, but you squash the supporters of that. If you force them into this other category, then they're going to take what he has and go above and beyond that, for better or worse. I don't know. I'm not saying racism, obviously. I'm saying, like, maybe Alex Jones isn't right about some things. Maybe they can explore. I'm open-minded. But
do you think he's a psyop?
Oh man, I've gone back and forth on it. I had Kelly Jones, his ex-wife, on my show right after their divorce. I have you looked into the Bill Hicks? Is Alex Jones's Bill Hicks theory?
I have not.
You're gonna have to look it up on like Odyssey or something, because it probably doesn't exist on YouTube anymore. But in the bonus content with Kelly Jones, I even asked her. I was like picking her brain on, is Alex Jones actually Bill Hicks? There's some really strange anomalies where they have very similar facial features and a whole lot of things, and very similar comedic styles. And there was a time when Bill Hicks said, if I wanted to make money off this thing, I would go start like a Rush Limbaugh show and do that and talk about it. And then Bill Hicks dies, and I think his name's David Booth, who was his producer or whatever. Suddenly he's got this new talent who is Alex Jones under David Booth, and he comes out and does all this Alex Jonesy stuff. So there's a very interesting theory there. I don't necessarily believe it, but I wish people could still look into it because it's fascinating. And that doesn't answer your question at all. But as far as whether or not he's a psyop, I think his start was some of the most important work that has been done in journalism in our society as America. Like his infiltration of Bohemian Grove, I believe it's real. That stuff, like that documentary, is crazy powerful and should make a lot of people go, what the fuck is going on here? But I fell off the train when Donald Trump started coming around and he just went hardcore Trump for a while. I was like, dude, you can't say for 20 years that if anybody gets into the White House and they're like controlled or they're puppets or whatever, and then when your guy gets in there, switch to, oh, well, he just is above and he's above this reproach. He's not a puppet. He's, he's the difference. Like, well, you convinced me that somebody can't get in there unless they're part of the system. And then he got in there and you supported him. I mean, now he's kind of come back around on Trump kind of. And so I'm like, maybe sometimes I set my conspiracy like paranoid brain aside and I'm like, he's probably just a dude who gets it wrong sometimes and got a little excited over Donald Trump. I don't necessarily think he's a psyop, but it does seem very, I don't know. He's kind of their go-to. He's a great controlled opposition if he was one. Like he's a great example. Like he's got this massive following. He's convinced a bunch of people about a lot of things. There are some things that he doesn't touch on at all, which makes me a little suspicious. And then, he leads people along, which controlled opposition and psyops, that's kind of their thing, where they give you a whole lot of great information, but keep you from digging into the ones that matter.
Right. And I also think that he set the precedence for the entire concept that we're talking about here of like deplatforming. Like he was the first, really. Not quite, but he was the first person that anyone actually cared about that got removed from YouTube or Twitter. Like that was and then after that happened, shortly after he got deplatformed, there was a bunch of other people like him that got ripped off, and it was like, oh, but it's just these conspiracy theorist nut jobs. And
first
so,
they came for Alex Jones, and I said nothing, for I was not a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
And now then they came for my president, I guess, and whatever. I mean, not my president. # never Trump. Whatever. Whatever you guys
but yeah, so I don't know. I feel like there's definitely a lot of ground to cover on that. Is he or is he not a psyop? Because I've been going back and forth. Trump definitely was guaranteed. Trump's a Democrat. He always has been.
Trump was an inside job. Yeah, Trump was an inside job for sure.
I love one of my favorite videos in existence, since we've already talked about 9/11 a couple times. There is a news clip of Donald Trump on, I believe it's Fox News from like late September 2001, talking about how it's absolutely impossible for a plane to have taken out the Twin Towers.
Yep. We just don't talk about that anymore.
No, we don't talk about that.
Yeah. I have heard the clip that you're talking about, and it's great. I need to dig that back up and start using it on the regular, just to trigger people. Donald Trump didn't even believe in 9/11 right after 9/11. And I mean, that doesn't really help his case because they would, I mean, that probably hurts the case of people who are digging into conspiracy truths anyway, because I don't really want Donald Trump on my team in any way whatsoever. Don't really want any of that movement to be associated with him. And it is pretty impressive, though, the whole Q thing, how long it's drug out. There's still podcasts dedicated to Donald Trump's glorious resurrection is going to happen any day now. And I like, once Joe Biden got elected, I was like, yeah, obviously that was bullshit. And then Joe Biden got like inaugurated or whatever, and people are still saying, oh, any day now, just trust the plan, don't pull out your guns and do something about tyranny, like, I think that was it the whole time. It was just, it convinced a whole lot of Republicans and even libertarians, maybe even some Democrats, gun-toting Democrats. There are those unicorns out there, but it convinced everybody to trust the plan. And but not me, but anybody who was involved in it. They trusted the plan instead of fighting back against this. They spent their time digging into how is he going to save us rather than how the fuck are we going to get out of this thing? And it worked. It worked amazingly, and people are still buying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if there's some aspect of hope that they can get back to the world that they wish exists, you don't start shooting places up. You don't ruin your social credit score by not complying with things or fighting against cops or fighting against your employer. You're still in that same self-preservation mode that you were in when he was president and you thought he was going to get reelected. Because everyone just wants to keep living normal lives. No one wants to get uncomfortable.
The best thing Donald Trump did in the White House was nothing. And the worst thing he did was nothing also, just in a different way. And I feel like a lot of people were like, he's going to do something any day now. Even I was like, maybe at least he'll pardon Assange, Snowden, and Ross. And it got up to the end. And I was like, well, not only did that not happen, on his way out the door, he made it so he could lobby his positions again, the thing that he executive ordered away before. On his way out, he's like, just so you know, I'm going to be able to be a lobbyist again. And I don't know how much more evidence anybody needs that he wasn't on the side that he was claiming to be on. He wasn't on the people's side when the people are demanding these things. And he's just like, nah, I won't make it worse, but I'm not going to really do anything. And it was just...
I would argue he made it a lot worse. When we really started to think about what he did in his presidency...
I mean, like war, not necessarily socially. He made that a lot worse, but war, he kind of was benign on for the most part.
That one I'll give you. It was almost good. He was above average, that's for sure.
He was less awful, a little less awful.
A little less awful.
He kept him going, so that's still pretty awful, but the bar was set really, really low.
He didn't start any new ones, which was impressive.
Right.
Unfortunately. But then he went along and he tied a lot of these conspiracy theories that we're talking about, along with the idea of free speech or gun rights or medical freedom, or the fact that maybe there's like a pedophile problem in our elite circles. All of that, he tied all of it to domestic terrorism, and then gave them what they needed to legislate the ability to fight against domestic terrorism harder than they ever have. And then single-handedly handed them the Senate, the House, and the White House. And then was like, see ya. He did more for the Democratic Party than Obama could have even dreamed of doing.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And you kind of glossed over it there, but let us not forget. Here's a PSA. Epstein still didn't fucking kill himself, whether they convince us or whether they distract us with all this nonsense or not. Epstein still didn't okay, let's say he did kill himself. Let's set that aside. No conspiracy at all. Jeffrey Epstein ran an island for pedophiles, elitist pedophiles. He was arrested in real life. Like, this isn't a movie. This happened. It was on the news. I saw it. You saw it. Everybody saw it. And now he's the only person who went down for it. He ran this whole island with all these pedophile elites. He had at least one other person, but how could, like, you're telling me that 2 people ran all of Pedophile Island? I'm not buying that either. But even if only those 2 people went down, that's only 2 people. Not a single elitist went down. Not a Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever the fuck her name is still hasn't gone down for this. Like, and nobody else implicated. We've just stopped talking about it. And like stuff like that, like we just forget so quickly. We have I don't think it's an accident that social media has made us all into ADHD riddled retards that can't, read half a page like myself without getting distracted. I think that that's intentional, and it's working greatly because that very important hashtag of, hey, that conspiracy theory, that gigantic, massive conspiracy theory that implicates people like Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Donald Trump, for fuck's sake, all these people, it just went away and we don't care anymore. That is mind-blowing to me. And you're going to tell me that because I don't want mandated vaccines, I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist. You're the guy who doesn't care that there's an elitist pedophile ring that actually happened. And I get kicked off of YouTube for talking about that Italian dish gate with the crust and the pepperonis. I get kicked off YouTube for that. I won't do it to you, but which that's just another level of the same thing that people say is absolutely impossible. Just like I was talking about Epstein 4 years before the news was, and so was the news behind the scenes. Come to find out. Sorry,
I actually like you're good. My like second or third video on this channel before it was a show. This was back when I was running for office and just kind of like putting out content because that's what you do as a candidate, right? Yeah. I talked about red flag laws because they were up for discussion nationally at the time. And we had people like Dan Crenshaw and Donald Trump, and other big name Republicans loudly supporting it.
Sure.
For those of you that aren't paying attention, it just passed the House with 135 Republican yays. Where red flag laws are sitting in the Senate right now and probably going to pass. But that happened about 3 months after an FBI pamphlet went out labeling conspiracy theorists as the newest subset of domestic terrorists. And they specifically in that pamphlet reference QAnon and Pizzagate and the idea behind it. So when you're reading that and then especially combine red flag laws with it, it's like anyone that thinks that there is an elitist pedophile ring in this country is not fit to own a gun.
Yep.
And that's the law in a lot of states right now because red flag laws are already there for a lot of people
even
and
if
they're about
it's
to pass
true.
nationally.
Right. Even if it's true. Like, think about that. If there is this and
it is we know for a fucking fact it's true.
Right. We don't know for sure about Comet Ping Pong or whatever the fuck. There's a whole lot of shady shit there, and whether or not there was a basement there, I know that's a question, but there's some pictures that kind of would lean toward debunking that debunking. But yeah, it happened. It is real, and none of the people that conspiracy that you mentioned, I won't mention it, but you mentioned it. It's just an extension of that. And there's with the Podesta emails and all that shit, you telling me that Barack Obama throws a frickin' party for a bunch of people and he gets $100,000 worth of hot dogs and pizza? Bullshit. You're not even supposed to bring in outside food into the White House, but he ordered that many things that just happen to be code for certain other things, and he said, those things will the ages, the specific names of kids, saying they're 4, 6, and 8 or whatever, and they will be in the pool this time to entertain people. I don't know if you can come. I try to be, I try to play devil's advocate and understand, I'm probably wrong about everything. I try to humble myself and understand that I'm wrong about everything. If you can explain to me half of the Podesta emails and what they actually mean, in normal person speak and not pedophile speak, I am all for it, but I have yet to be convinced. And until then, you said that and this code, and maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. I hope I'm wrong on all these things. Yeah. But if
I would
I'm
love for
wrong,
people not to be getting tortured and raped. That would be great if that were true.
And to the people that are flagrantly skeptical to the point where they think that I am a terrible human being and I must be a racist because this is tied to that and that's tied to that and domestic terrorist and all that shit. I mean, the frickin' CIA invented the word conspiracy theorist as a way, look into it. They invented the term as a way to make us all lumped into this category. And now they've brought the war on terror home. And now we're fighting the war on domestic terror. And it's the most dangerous thing to our democracy today. It's so obvious. And if you want to take the Pizzagate thing, sorry. And if you want to say that, let me give you the benefit of the doubt and say that didn't happen. Okay, actually, let's go the other way. Let's say that definitely did happen and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's allowed to talk about it. And now you have social media, all of the Facebook, YouTube, all these things, they have more power than the phone network. And they're telling you, you can't call your friend on the phone and talk to them about this thing that is true. Hypothetically, let's say this is hypothetically true, that terrible things are happening and you're not allowed to talk about it. Does that bother you at all? That these platforms don't want you talking about saving children from being raped? Does that bother you? Because it bothers me. Maybe I'm just a crazy racist for it. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Facebook definitely doesn't want you to talk about human trafficking in general, not just this specific subset of it.
Yeah.
They just don't want you to talk about it in any way, shape, or form, and they have routinely fucked over survivors and whistleblowers and protected those that are still continuing to do the trafficking and the raping and the murdering. But
let's
hey,
let's say that they're trying to protect you from these crazy evil conspiracy theorists that might make somebody go do something crazy. Let's give them full benefit of the doubt here and say that they are doing their best to get the truth out there. Now, if this is happening and you have heard somebody else say it's happening and you've seen all the information that says it's happening, what makes Facebook the arbiter of truth on that matter? Did Facebook go and do the research? If this is something that is being squashed from the media, or like these are the elitists that don't want you talking about this, these are the people over Facebook that don't want you talking about this, why do you trust Facebook to be the ones that are going and doing the investigations, coming up with what is and what isn't? Do you believe that? Because like I don't, sorry.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've talked about this stuff, so it's boiling over.
I feel that. Yeah, I will never believe Facebook is a fact checker. Like, but even before they started fact checking everything, I didn't really believe Snopes or like, you know, the normal fact checking sites. Half the time they were bullshit.
Snopes is, if you look it up, it's literally a dude and his wife that we're just taking as they know because they know. Like, what did they do? A different Google search? How do they get to decide? I don't get it. Are they literally everywhere?
No, they did a Bing search. That's why they know better.
Yep, they did on DuckDuckGo. See, the algorithm didn't squash the truth, and then they came up to their conclusion. Yeah. My point being, these are all people. They might be collections of people that have more power, but they're all people. And I'm not saying that they necessarily are trying to do something villainous and squash down information. They might think they're doing the right thing deep down, but that doesn't mean that they are. They're just people too. There are a bunch of people that own your soul because you sold it to them for the low price of getting to talk with grandma on Facebook. But they own your soul, and they are the ones deciding what you are and aren't, the truths that you are and aren't allowed to look into at all.
Yeah. What do you think was the first thing that you knew to be fact that you weren't allowed to say?
First thing that I knew to be fact. Frankly, I don't know. You mean like the first conspiracy theory that I was absolutely convinced on, type of thing?
Or yeah, like the first thing that like you knew that you were right, but if you posted it on Facebook, like today it would get removed. Like, you know, Snopes would disagree with you. I guess. When was the first time Snopes said something that you were like, wait, I know that's wrong?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure. Like, the way I run my show and the way I try to be is I try to humble my thoughts as possible. Like just now, I've given everybody the benefit of the doubt, trying to understand this from all different aspects. I'm always open to being proven wrong, even in like my faith and my religion, stuff like that. Like, I believe things thoroughly deep down, but if somebody presents me with new information, I like to process it and figure out what is truth. And I would say that I'm not 100% convinced of anything. I would say the COVID stuff, honestly, has been the most like eye-opening, because before it was like, this stuff is interesting and it seems like for sure that is that, and you know, these people colluded with that, JFK, 9/11, the moon landing is it's a big one for me, actually. I don't think that we have gone, but if somebody could convince me that we have, I'm open to it.
I have to have you back on sometime to talk about that.
Okay. But yeah, as far as even that, I am more open to being convinced on that to have my mind change than the flagrant disregard for facts and evidence that has gone on in this COVID thing. It's only, I'm sure it's only because I wasn't really paying attention yet in 9/11 and I wasn't alive during the moon landing or most of this stuff. But this one, with it being such an ongoing thing, and we have so many different examples of things that they've lied or flip-flopped on, or like Fauci changes his mind day by day and the people just go with whatever he says, and it seems to just happen to be whatever the CDC says that day. And if the CDC disagrees with him, he's like, I didn't really mean it, it's fine, I meant the just Christmas masks every now and then. Like, it's all arbitrary bullshit that he makes up off the top of his head. And like, for me, that is the most flagrant one at this point. I know that might be a cop-out answer, but we're living it right now. So it's kind of the thing that I've researched the most lately. Like, I used to dig into all this other stuff a lot more. We used to talk about it way more on my show because, you know, there wasn't this conspiracy happening before our eyes. And now it's hard to care about any of the other stuff other than how it leads up to this mass deception that is what we're living through.
Yeah. It definitely is the most obvious. I feel like I was trying to think of my answer as I asked that question. I think the biggest one I remember, or the biggest first one, I remember watching like the first or second of the Democratic primary debates this last time, and it wasn't Snopes. It was a different like social media site that was like live fact checking the debate. And
which means Googling faster than you. Like that's all they're doing. That's what fact checking is.
And you know, someone said something that was like it was either guns or taxes. One of the things that like I know what I know. Like we know that the narrative on this bullshit is wrong. So yeah, I think it was either like inflation mixed with taxes or something about like that Beto said about guns, and like something that I'm well versed in. I'm like, I know that's a fucking lie. And then I look it up and it's like 85% true or whatever. Like he was wrong about this little thing, but the point he was making is still a good point. And it's like, no, it's not. It was a gun grabby point. Like, no, fuck you.
That is their game. That's what Snopes does all the freaking time. It's like, I look up something like, did Donald Trump, I guess that's not a good one because that would be for Donald. Okay. Let's just make up something hypothetically and reverse the roles here. Did Joe Biden say he could shoot somebody in Times Square and get away with it? False. That is false, because he did not say he could shoot somebody in like Central Park and get away with it. And then like deep down in the tiny section, it's like he actually said this, which is the same thing, but we changed one word so that it's false again. Yes.
Yeah,
they do that all the time. It's insane. And same with like Wikipedia. Like, who gets to decide who's contributing to this anymore? It used to be that it was like open source and people could go in and contribute, but now they have their certain selected people that are the trusted arbiters of truth. And all I'm saying is all the people that get to decide are just people, and they probably don't know all that much more than you do. They might know less than you do. They were just hired to like a $15 an hour job doing tech, and they're just fresh out of high school or something. And they're like, sure, I'll be a Wikipedia editor. And they're like, great, you get to decide what's true and what's false now. And then you get to, I don't know, get people banned from YouTube if they don't agree with this 15-year-old, I don't know, opinion.
I can tell you really have a very mild, mediocre opinion on this topic.
Yes.
You're not quite sure where you stand. It's kind of you're thinking it out as you go.
Trust no one. Trust zero people. No. That's my point. And by that I mean, like, for you, I give people the benefit of the doubt all the time. Like, I had the guy on today who took over the Delaware party. I gave him his fair shake. I was calm, and that's where I agree with you on your initial unity idea. I talked to him like, these are the holes in your argument, and this is why I disagree with you. And at the end of the day, we had a decent conversation. I ended it with, man to man, you have told me that you're ashamed of yourself and you don't think that you should have done this. I'm telling you, man to man, you should resign, because I believe that you want liberty to move forward. And I do. I believe that he wants that. And this is not the way to do it. This is only going to slow it down. So if you need to set your own biases, your own pride and prejudices aside, and relinquish your power that you stole and give it back to them, because how many people did that disenfranchise in the liberty movement to join their party, or join any party for that matter, anybody that hears about this?
So I'm kind of glad that it's not doing what New Hampshire did. Like, I honestly know nothing. Like, I barely know enough to... Like, I know just enough to not be completely confused listening to you talk right now. Sure. But for the most part, like all I know is about what you've said on the show. Like somebody tried to take over the party and it kind of worked and something's going on down there. And I'm kind of glad. I'm glad that it's staying there.
Yeah, sure. Well, the very short explanation is he found some loopholes in the bylaws that he knows are shady to have done. He thinks that technically on every level he is allowed to do that thing, and he did. He got the chair, the vice chair, and Dave Casey, who's one of the board members or something. Sorry, Dave, I always forget what he is, but chair and vice chair, obviously the most important. He got them removed. He says it's not because of Mises Caucus affiliation. I picked his brain enough to come to the conclusion that that's the only evidence that he has, is that they were affiliated with the Mises Caucus. He got that overthrown, and he admitted many times this was bad. But this was their fault for having this in the bylaws. I'm going to fix the bylaws and everything's going to be great. I'm like, dude, that's not going to do anything for anybody. It's not going to help you. It's not going to accomplish your mission. All you've done is make enemies. You have not brought anybody in with this thing. I guarantee it. And even if like you stay in for the next 2 years or something, as soon as anybody starts dipping their toe in the water, all they're going to hear about is your track record now of stealing the fucking party. And how is that going to convince them of anything? So.
Yeah, even if it's a different chair, like we saw that with JBH, like getting crucified for the sins of Sarwark, who he ran against. If you keep the sham running, like I agree. There's really no way to come back from that well.
Right, just setting bad precedents, and you're guaranteeing that people are going to find loopholes to screw you out of your position in the future. And. He admitted, he said it was wrong. I conspired. I shouldn't have done it, basically. Or I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he said it was ethically wrong. And you can fix it, though. And I mean, if we want to tie all this together in a nice, neat little bow, like, be humble. Humble yourself enough to understand when you're wrong. And you're probably wrong more times than you're not wrong. And that's okay, because everybody else is too. And just that doesn't mean like don't stand on your principles or stand for what you believe. But that means if somebody presents you with new information, take it and use it to grow. And not only that, but help those around you to do the same thing. Going back to the mask thing, if somebody decides, hey, this is obviously bullshit, I'm sorry, you've been saying this for years, welcome them with open arms and say, thank you for finally coming to your senses. Now pick up your weapon and let's get to war here. So
amen. Well, before we go, I want to give you a chance to shout out your show, anybody cool you've got coming on, and how people can find you, how people can get in touch with you if they want to utilize your wonderful videographer services.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have anybody cool coming on. I used to do a lot more big interviews. Like I've had Tom McDonald on, I've had Juanita Broderick on, I've had David Thibodeau on, I've had Kelly Jones on, blah, blah, blah. I kind of got away from that because it requires a lot more work when you're scheduling things and releasing them at a certain time. I've gotten more into, I do news coverage on Wednesdays live with a friend of mine who's a co-host. He doesn't know anything, so it's all like news to him, and I'm bouncing ideas off of him and talking to him about libertarian ideas and stuff like that. And we do that on Wednesdays, and then I do interviews whenever they come up, basically. Lately, I've been doing a lot of the libertarian drama stuff, just not for the sake of the drama, but frankly, I'm sick of doing it. I wish the Libertarian Party wouldn't keep giving me, fodder here. I wish they would stop having their corruption, because I'll stop when they stop, but they have to stop first. But that's been a lot of what I've been doing, and just I'll have just like friends on a lot, like other podcasters and stuff like that on, just to chat and shoot the shit, because I think that there's a lot of there might be more quick value in me getting like celebrities on and stuff like that, but there's probably more value in communicating with other humans, being real one-on-one, and having these uncomfortable conversations about sticky topics, and like I said, just speaking the truth, and then that fuels other people to do the same. Like I Dave Casey, I've even said, like, I went through a bout where all this QAnon stuff was going down, and I was like, I'm just gonna lay off some of this conspiracy stuff for a while, because people don't seem to like it that much. And then I heard Dave Casey talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Like, we're all going down together anyway. So be as honest as you can, no matter how uncomfortable it is. And that's what my show is all about, is being humble, talking to people that you disagree with, and expanding not just the world around you, but yourself, and in doing so, becoming the thing that you were intended to be, and filling your role in the fabric of humanity. It's a little hippy dippy, but changing the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time. What I'm all about, and you can find it at thesystemisdown.tv or follow me on Twitter at TSIDpod, and all the links to everything. I'm on pretty much everything. They're all at thesystemisdown.tv. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, I would love to come on humbly and have you convince me that the moon landing didn't happen, because that's one that I've always had that in the bucket of like, okay, those people, like, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not one of those. So, but I've never really looked into it. So I'm still very open to being convinced that that's just one more thing that the government's been lying to us about for decades.
Dude, I'll take you down the rabbit hole. I'll get you talking about flat Earth before this is over. But dude, thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Thanks for coming on.
Me a good time to get out some of the old cobwebs of conspiracy land and have some fun ranting about it. So I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming on. I can't say enough how much I love the work that you do for the movement. Like, your videos are fucking awesome. Guys, if you don't already, go follow him, go subscribe, go watch some of those episodes. I've seen a few of them, and they're always great at time. If you don't already subscribe to this channel, like this video, send it to your friends. Tell them about how autistic and wonderful we are. And always go to nugofknowledge.com and buy some weed, because weed is wonderful, and we all could be a little bit higher, and the world would be a little bit better of a place. And if you do that,
you get me higher.
I can at nugofknowledge.com, promo code F4L. That'll get you 10% off and help me out, help FSM out. So go do that. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you back here next week. And until then, keep up the fight.